Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
On the part of the Senate, the joint session is called to order.
On the part of the House of Representatives, the joint session is hereby called to order. Please rise for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem, to be led by Ms. Morissette Amon and accompanied by the Philippine Philharmonic Orchestra.
Magiliw, pelas ng silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisihin. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bukha, may dilag ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidingding, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walhating pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na magnay ng api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Please remain standing for the nation's prayer.
Ama naming makapangyarihan sa lahat, narito po kami upang magpasalamat sa lahat ng biyayang binibigay mo po sa aming mayaman na kalikasan, mga kakayahan at tibay ng loob. Maraming salamat po.
Basbasan mo po at gabayan ang aming mahal na inang bayan at ang aming mga leader na pangalagaan ang aming kinabukasan bilang susunod na henerasyon ng aming mahal na Pilipinas.
Gabayan mo po kami sa harap ng pandemya at protektahan mo po kami. Ipakita mo po sa amin ang tamang daan upang malagpasan namin ito at lahat ng mga darating pang sakuna, kalamidad o anumang hamon. Lahat ng ito ay tinatanggap namin bilang pagsubok lamang upang lalo kaming sumampalataya sa iyo. Naway matamo namin ang ganap na pagkakaisa bilang isang bayan. Turuan mo po kaming maging mapagkumbaba at laging unahin ang aming kapwa bago ang aming mga sarili, lalo na ang mga kapuspalad, mga dumaraing at ang mga nais na marinig, pati na rin ang mga kababayan naming naghahatid ng mahalagang serbisyo sa kapwa, maging dito sa Pilipinas o sa ibang bansa.
Patatagin mo po sana kami bilang tao at bilang isang bayan na laging nananalig at naniniwalang hindi mo po kami pababayaan kailanman.
Salamat, Panginoon, sa lahat ng iyong blessing sa amin. Ito po ang aming dasal. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of Congress, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Kindly sit down, please. By far, this is the most beautiful SONA crowd that ever happened here. So many beautiful faces, and you only have to guess when you see the full face of the person. Senate President Vicente Soto III and the honorable members of the Senate, House Speaker Lord Alan J. Velasco, and the honorable members of the House of Representatives, Vice President Maria Leonor Robredo, former Presidents Fidel V. Ramos, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Joseph Ejercito Estrada, the Chief Justice Alexander Gismondo, and the Justices of the Supreme Court, Executive Secretary Salvador Medaldia, and the members of the Cabinet, Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, His Excellency Archbishop Charles John Brown, and the distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps. My fellow government workers, and of course, to my lovely wife, Hanilet, mga mahal kong kababayan, when I assumed the presidency 5 years ago, dominant in my mind were the dreams and visions of a better life for all Filipinos. I saw them as reachable through the institution of reforms and radical changes in both in the structure of government and the mode of governance. Changes designed responsibility, accountability, and all in consonance with the truth that the public office is a public trust. When I ran for the presidency, I just made fundamental processes, and strangely, you can count them by the fingers of your hand. I made those changes which I thought that was really, there was time and doable. To offer free education, it's there already. The universal health care, nandiyan na po. The fight against illegal drugs, criminality, and corruption, and the development structure, including free irrigation and other big-ticket projects, which I thought I did not have the funds to do it. But perchance, among others, they were done in my term. Today, as I approach my term, my end of my term, I have less visions, but more remembrances. But mine is not to review or to second guess what might have been, but to bear and respond with the urgency of the unforeseen events as they unfold. Even before I took the oath of office, and everyone else, I suppose, knew the gravity of the enormity of the problems that the country was facing. And precisely because of that awareness, I was driven to hasten implementation of changes which I believe the country needed, keeping in mind that the Constitution afforded me only 6 years to make those changes happen. Making a difference within the constitutional time frame is what I was up against. But no one gets by legally without warming to the needle's eye of the constitutional imperatives. That is why I cajoled, I shewed, I pushed, and I tangled with men of wealth and influence who were oblivious to the anguish and pleas of the weak and impoverished. And for that, I was pilloried to no end. But I did not succumb to the attacks, and neither did I allow criticisms, however intense, dampen my determination and initiatives, because my purpose was pure and unpolluted. While we were busy instituting reforms, the twin augurs of illegal drugs and corruption laid low for a while, only to resurface as still with us. And make no mistake about it, corruption is but another term of stealing people's money, dashing in its wake a nation's goals and aspirations. Due to the brilliant programs and excellent work of our economic managers and the extraordinary cooperation between the executive and legislative branches of government, our economy, with investor confidence, was poised to leapfrog from the company into the company of the world's fastest growing economies until COVID-19 pandemic stalled everything. Be that as it may, allow me this opportunity to extend my personal and the nation's gratitude to all those who selflessly gave their all In the fight against COVID-19, our health workers and other frontliners who risk their own safety. To keep our essential health services and our food supply chain running, boosting the economy, activity, and ensure peace and order in our communities. I would like also to extend my deepest appreciation for the generosity of the private sector who came to the government's aid in fighting COVID-19. I am profoundly thankful for your sustained assistance to fellow Filipino. And amidst the same deleterious effect of the pandemic to our respective industries, let me assure you that the government is committed to assess the private sector to regain the commercial vibrance of the country prior to the pandemic. To our local executives, this pandemic pushed you to step up and deliver responsive assistance. I'm glad to have seen you undertake new and heightened responsibility, working doubly hard to protect your constituents. To the international development partners who extended a helping hand amidst the global health emergency, the Philippines remembers your kindness and goodwill with sincere gratitude. And to all of you who answered the call to protect one another by adhering to our nation's protocols, daghang salamat. But then, let me ask, perhaps you and to myself, what exactly is the state of the nation today? In the light of the pandemic which has paralyzed business activities and crippled even the strongest world's economies. So, where do we go from here? Looking back to our accomplishments. In my first SONA, I laid down with utmost commitment and resolve the overall direction of my presidency. A comfortable life for all Filipinos anchored on a people-centered approach to development and governance. If I remember correctly, my administration, I said, will implement a human approach to development governance in our people's welfare in the areas of health, free education, adequate food and housing, environmental preservation, and respect for the culture. I bore no illusions that steering a nation towards a comfortable life for every Filipino would be easy. Indeed, the past 5 years have truly been challenging, and humbling. I stand here before you today bearing no conceit, but if there is one thing that I could be proud of, is that not once did I waver in doing the unpopular, even if it meant upholding the greatest good for the greatest number. Before I took office, our country was beset with communist insurgency scattered across the nation. A separatist movement that sought to divide us on the basis of religion and religion's deficiencies, and the proliferation of illegal drugs and criminality. Our armed forces were ill-equipped to deal with internal and external threats, while the police force had been overwhelmed by criminality and the drug trade problem. This is why I made it a priority to strengthen the institution, boost the morale of the men and women of the armed forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police and other armed services. Again, I thank Congress for working with the Executive Department in enhancing capabilities of the AFP and PNP through our modernization program. In 2018, we raised the salaries of our military and uniformed policemen and personnel to a level commensurate to the critical role they play in upholding national security and maintaining order. I am asking Congress to pass a unified system of separation, retirement, and pension of military and uniformed personnel to maintain government fiscal flexibility and provide adequate benefits and remuneration to our men and women in uniform. This shall apply only to the new entrants of the military and civil. Hindi ho lahat. It cannot be that we have to pay so many, even the salaries of the retired. They get a chunk of the big budget. And if we include the new entrants, the funds available for them would not be enough. It is also high time for us to pass a law providing free legal assistance to AFP and PNP officers, enlisted personnel. To help them from charges arising from incidents related to the performance of official duty. The continuous upgrading of our defense capability shall ensure that we shall uphold our territorial integrity and sovereignty from external and security threats. Among the new additions. We welcome the country's 2 missile-capable warships to enable us to protect our seas by providing them with necessary equipment, by enhancing their professional capabilities, and looking after the families of the soldiers who would not be longer be in their company. We do not only strengthen our military and police institutions, we also inspire them to serve this nation with the highest degree of loyalty and patriotism. We enable them to carry out their mandate to defeat all enemies of the state, whatever the cost. Indeed, I am proud of the accomplishments of our troops in securing our nation against all threats to our democratic institution. But peace must be realized. Peace and security is not only just a military concern. That is why we deviated from the traditional purely military approach in dealing with matters of national security. With the creation of the National Task Force to End Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC, we have made great strides in addressing the root causes of this conflict by empowering our kababayans who have been used by the communists for many decades. In our continuing effort to build state of safe and conflict-resilient barangays, we have worked towards the sustainable rehabilitation and development of communities where the communists used to operate. Through the NTF-LCAC, we invested in farm-to-market roads, school buildings, water and sanitation, health stations, and livelihood. Alam mo, kasali na tayo dito lahat. Always, every law or every regulation must pass Congress, of course, to the President. But sometimes, in our, in the performance of our duties, we encounter the not so nice of confronting each other. But because of these interventions, more than 17 former communist rebels have surrendered to government. They have returned to the folds of the law and are happily reintegrating programs or their local eclipse. It's either I am talking too fast or too slow, or the operator of this thing here is drowsy. Maybe because I had so many ad-libs along the way. Marami akong akin lang. Kaya yung nahinto ako when I stop and I'm process something in my the gray matter between my ears, hindi humahabol o hindi alam ng operator. Hindi bale, ma'am, mahal pa rin kita. Lalaki ba ito o yung mga babae? Kagabi yung mga babae, sila? Sabihin mo sa kanila, magipagkita ako maya. I will embrace them for their punctuality in operating this, this strange machine that gives you the speech. With the support of our local government units, I am confident that support for the communist movement will continue to erode in the next few months. Unlike the decades-old Moro rebellion in Mindanao, we also bring an end to the armed struggle of the communists once and for all. Sa totoo lang, itong komunista, college pa ako. Hanggang ngayon, ang mga sige pa rin. So, speech mo lang ito, kunwari lang, pero ang totoo, there's a lot of fighting going on in the countryside. But I'd like to credit the police and the military for destroying so many communist fronts. I think they have destroyed more than 15 apparatus or the fronts of the Communist Party of the Philippines. Alam mo, mag-istorya muna tayo sa taxation. I'd like to be frank with you. Everybody in this country are paying taxes to the communists. The Communist Party earns billions, but pass on a little to their fighting men who die for an ideology that is so rotten and corrupt. They themselves are pocketing the money, and their children are studying in Europe and in other places, which I think none of you here can finance such journey. Yan ang masakit dito. They collect taxes, support season in Netherlands, and they do nothing but bad-mouth government and war dogmas and everything. Hindi na sila napagod. It's about 53 years in the making. And until today, the poor people are dying. The cadres, and most of them belonging to the indigenous tribes of our country, are fighting a losing battle between the communists and the government. They waste lives, they enlist children, and they are proud of it, but they deny it. But when you go to the mountains, such as I and Senator go many times, even during the elections, they were there with so many arms that I think somebody, an idiot here in the Philippines, supplied the firearms. I'd like to ask Congress, especially Senator Bato, kindly dig on, because we have identified the person who imported the AK-47 into this country on the pretext of using it in the security, providing security and guards in business establishments and for those who can afford their home. This policeman, I think, is still there. He was a colonel, and she is still, walang nangyari. At maraming sundalong namatay dahil sa mga armas na pinasok nila dito sa Pilipinas. So that my orders to you, if you see them walking around, kindly shoot them dead. I would be happy. Anyway, you're already charged in the ICC together with me. So what is the problem of adding another one? Another idiot Filipino who has caused great damage to our country. Yan ho ang totoo dyan. At itong mga pulis, but let me go back in time. When I first said I will fight drugs in 6 months, I thought it was like in Davao. You can either coerce, intimidate, or bribe them, or give them money. I said, lumabas kayo ng Davao, doon kayo magkalat sa Luzon at sa ibang lugar. Huwag dito sa Davao. Naniniwala naman ang mga ulol at we were able to attain a sense of normalcy in the city. Yun ho ang totoo. There are people charged with corruption and even going to prison for just maybe not telling the truth in their assets and liabilities. Nakukulong. Itong mga police were doing their thing, their drugs. They were the manufacturers and they were the distributor of drugs. When I became president, I asked De La Rosa, he was the chief of police of my city, I promoted him direct to being PNP chief. 4-star na kaagad, automatic. But I told him and the others, look for the enemies. Look for where they are. And if you find them, destroy the apparatus. Destroy all, from the manufacturers to the peddlers, because we are fighting a drug war that was being participated in the business by 9 generals of the PNP. Kaya yan ang sakit sa loob ko. I did not know that I was fighting my own government. Customs and everyone else were facilitating the importation of drugs. And one importation, as you can see it every night on TV, the police now sees about almost $1 billion worth of drugs every day. And if you look at the 888, there are about 1,000 Filipinos arrested every day by the police in connection with drug trafficking. And that is why I go crazy looking at the situation. They are still around. We do not have the laboratories now because nawala na sila. At itong naiwan ngayon are doing the importation. The citizens of another country cook their shabu in their in their tugboat or something, and they threw out the product contained in the plastic bags and with an GPS attached to the contraband so that the importers here could find them easily. That is how we are fighting, almost losing a battle against drugs. And now, the Sinaloa gangsters of Mexico and the triad of Laos in that area. They are busy cooking, and we have the Filipinos here with nothing in their mind except to destroy a nation, distributes them. That is what I said. I've been asked the question, and several times I gave the answer. I am a Filipino, and I love my country. I do not want my country in disarray because of drugs. I do not want families break up and become dysfunctional. Yun ang masakit sa akin. If you want to destroy a family, look for a way of the member or a resident of that family home. Biglang mo na droga. Pag nandyan na yung droga at they are hooked, and that is the end. Sometimes families are separated because of drugs, becomes dysfunctional, at yung mga masawa magpunta doon sa abroad, ika nga, to look for jobs. And you know, in the Middle East, I am not attributing it to any particular country, but there are tribes in the Middle East who are employing our Filipina citizens, and they are uniform. Everybody who comes here home asks them how many hours of sleep they have. They said it's only 3 to 4 hours. And the food is hagwas. And the sacrifice because they send money to the families back home. And thinking all the time that the money was spent usefully, only to realize when she comes home that that family has already dispersed to nowhere. Bakit yan? Because itong mga durugista sa baba, itong peddlers, itong basurero, tawag, it's a street lingo. They look for families na may mga nanay, tatay nagtrabaho, ang tatay or nanay nagtatrabaho sa abroad. And to think na iniiwan nila ang mga anak nila kung saan-saan na lang, to their neighbors, at the tender age of 3 to 4, 5, it breaks your heart. Iiwan lang nila sa kapitbahay kung walang mga relatives. And then, when they come back 5 years, 4 years after, they now realize that their young sons and daughters have gone into prostitution because of drugs. And their boys or their the male are nowhere to be found and into the drug business also. Yun ang pinakamasakit. Masakit sa akin na ang Pilipina pumunta doon para magtrabaho because sexual abuse in some tribes in the Middle East have this notion that if you are a slave or you are a paid person working for them, sexual abuse becomes part of the territory. Kaya dyan ako pumuputok at nakakita ko yung mga pamilya na sira. And to think that they labored without sleep, eating, I said, garbage, and not being allowed to go to their own church to pray, well, that is prohibited by them. And we have been, just because of their money that they get, we just look the other way around, but still being, bothered every night and day, what will happen to the next succeeding group of. That is why I have in this speech, I talk about slavery. Pero yan, magprangka ako, I will never deny, and the ICC can record it. Those who destroy my country, I will kill you. And those who destroy the young people of our country, I will kill you. Talagang ngayariin kita because I love my country. You can do it the legal way, but it would take you months and years. And you know what? The statistics I just learned the other night, that plenty of those who are in the middle class have been released from prison despite the fact that they are charged of trafficking which is non-bailable, and most of them are out. Babae pati lalaki ang kaso. And that is why I said, I toyed with the idea. I said, if there is still space, with due respect to the Senate President, he is a good man. He can become a good Vice President. He is holy. Ngayon, hindi na siya nahuhuli. Noon, huling-huli siya. But with due respect to Senator Soto, who's also running for the Vice Presidency, he is a capable man, a good man, and a Filipino. Sige ako tingin sa harap na dito para sa likod ko. You know, when you are old, I've been in politics, mayor for 23 years, 5 years as a congressman dito. I work here. And 4 years working as vice mayor for my daughter, Sarah. And the presidency. I have been in politics almost 23 plus 4 plus 4. Almost 40. Kaya kung hindi ko na malaman ang seat arrangement dito, hindi ko alam na noon pa ang mga Senate President pati. Butit na lang hindi ko sinali si Velasco. Baka hindi na ako makabalik doon maya. Dibale, diretso na ako uwi. I have said many times before, the bloodshed caused by the separatist movement in Mindanao is all about correcting the historical injustice suffered by the Moro people. Since the period of colonialization, with the help of Congress, we were able to pass the organic law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Finally fulfilling a promise that was decades in the making. Our victory in Marawi is also a testament to how the Filipinos' patriotism is far stronger than any extremist group. As I have said before many times, there is no room for lawlessness in this country. Rebuilding a better Marawi remains today still not completed. To Task Force Bangon Marawi, we need to race against time, and you have to finish the necessary work for to rehabilitate the war-torn city and bring back its families back home. Now, let me talk again about the drugs. I was just ahead because I was talking something else. Nag-segue ako. While we have made great strides in ending rebellion and insurgency in various parts of the country, we still have a long way in our fight against the proliferation of drugs. This problem has hounded our country for several decades, destroying families and degrading the moral fiber of our society. When I assumed office, I committed to end this problem at the soonest possible time. We launched an unprecedented war against illegal drugs and to destroy their apparatus. That permitted every level and sector of society. We waged war on the manufacturers, the financiers, the suppliers, the peddlers, and the entire syndicates, and more importantly, their protectors in government. We have rescued and reformed drug dependence because of their idiotic sense of decency. While interventions and building facilities not only for the rehabilitation, but also to prepare them to reintegrate into society. Our unyielding campaign led to the surrender of millions of drug dependents and neutralization, capture, and prosecution of thousands of drug personalities. The dismantling of illegal drugs and syndicates and the drug laboratories, the extensive drug communities down to the barangay level, and the cutting of narco politics. You know, allow me a little bit of your time. Wala naman siguro kayong lakad ngayon. Unless you want to, unless you have this appointment with, I'm sure hindi babae yan. That would be a sexist statement. Kung nagmamadali talaga, halos tumatakbo, babae yan. Kung naglalakad lang na natural, medyo less important yan. Ganon yan. Pero dito wala. I'm not making any success. I'm just saying the truth. What is the truth? It's there for all to see. Let me talk about our quest for infrastructure development. 5 years ago, the first thing I made sure was to increase our infrastructure spending to an average of 5% of the country's GDP. This is significantly higher than infrastructure spending of each and past 4 administrations. Thanks to the comprehensive tax reform program that enabled us to fund critical infrastructure projects, today we can see the tangible results all around. MRT-3, with its frequent breakdowns and unloading of passengers mid-rail, was a horror. That was for the daily commuters to endure in the past. Now, MRT-3 no longer unloads passengers but to their destinations. The waiting time between trains had been significantly reduced to 10 trains running at only 30 kilometers per hour before. Now MRT runs 23 trains at 60 kilometers per hour. We have taken away the misery of public commuting. We also pursue the completion of the LRT to East Extension project by extending Line 2 and adding 2 more stations. We have reduced travel time between Manila and Antipolo from the usual 2 to 3 hours to only just 40 minutes. Thanks to our partnership with the private sector, we are able to open Stage 3 of the Metro Manila Skyway in January this year. This decongested EDSA and other major roads in Metro Manila. On Independence Day last month, we also inaugurated the Kalayaan Bridge, part of the BGC Ortigas Centerlink project, which will reduce the usual 1-hour travel time between the 2 business districts in just 12 minutes. Beyond Metro Manila, we are pursuing several high-impact projects that will be completed within my term and perhaps in the following years. It's a question of money. Just this July, we inspected the newly built passenger terminal building of the Clark International Airport. The new and modern passenger terminal is equipped with the latest state-of-art technology. This can accommodate 8 million passengers, alleviate air traffic congestion at the Naya Airport, as well as serve a major growth driver and gateway to northern and central Luzon. Madali man magpakpak, ang basa ang mahirap. To help promote equitable development, we also completed several roads leading to important trade corridors. Last year, we completed the construction of the Poro Point Free Port Zone Road in La Union, which improved Nakita na ninyo yan? Wala. Sige lang, pakpak. You don't even have a picture of what I'm talking about, I'm sure. To improve access to prime spots for investment tourism in the Poro Point area. We also completed the junction Lanao-Pagadian Zamboanga City Road, which will provide easier access to farms and easily transport their agricultural products at low cost and in great quantities to industries in economic zones located in Diplahan, Zamboanga, Sibugay. The Sorsogon City in Bicol, inuna namin yan kasi mahal ko ang mga Bicolano. Pangangatawan ninyo yung pakpak ninyo, ha? Baka the Sorsogon City Coastal Pass-by Road is targeted completion by the end of 2021, while the Davao City Coastal Road will be completed by 2023. Bakit? Why? Why is Davao last? Kasi sinabi ko sa kanila, unahin ninyo yung buong Pilipinas. During the initial years of my presidency, I told the economic managers and the DPWH, pati si Art Tugade sa transportation, unahin ninyo ang Luzon at ibang areas sa Mindanao. Do not look into the political entrails of this city and other provinces. Sinadya ko talaga na ipanghuli ang Davao. Kaya for the Davaoenos, you must understand that we cannot really unahin natin yung, kasi taga dyan ako eh. Kung hindi ako sigurado taga Davao, tapos na yan, pareho ng iba. Kaya lang sinabi ko, make Davao the last priority. At totoo yan. Sorsogon is a little politics, but that's the territory of our Vice President, Lene Robredo. Are you here, ma'am? Zoom. Meron ho kayong Sorsogon at iba pa. We have inaugurated new highways and roads and skyways. We have bought new trains, and these are a testament that we have greatly eased the grueling experience of traveling and commuting. And to sustain our momentum in infrastructure development, I have directed DPWH, DTR, NEDA, Department of Finance, and DBM to be on full speed to ensure that our flagship project will be completed within my term, especially those that could help disperse economic activity outside of the densely populated Metro Manila. I thus earnestly call upon our LGU and private sector partners to help us speed and go for the earliest realization towards our flagship project, infrastructure, and others. Let me dwell about governance. As we improve the connectivity, we work towards greater convenience for our travelers. We have extended the validity of the Philippine passport to 10 years to lessen the burden of our traveling travelers and OFWs. We have also gone beyond merely addressing the 3 million backlog of the driver's licenses in 2016. We also extended for the new cards the validity of the driver's license to 5 years, and addedly, we shall begin the issuance of these driver's licenses within 10 years, which would be good for 10 years if there is no traffic violation. So, punta ka doon sa LTO, maybe you have a good sight. Merong ano yan eh. I think there's an examination there somewhere to test your ability to drive safely. And you go back 10 years after, and you think that you still have the good sight, and your reflexes are still good. 10 years, maraming banggaan yan. Sigurado ako. After 10 years, after 5, there should be a stricter measure to issue the 10 years validity of a driver's license by imposing stringent requirements to test the essential functions of eyesight, then the hearing. Yung iba, hindi na nakakarinig ng serbato eh. And so, I have to, 10 years is too long. So I like it. It's good. But we should have, as I said, in 5 years, we should go there for a medical makeover. Tingnan lang kung kaya pa. Not only did we extend the validity of the licenses and passports, we also sought to make long lines a thing of the past. By streamlining government processes, these efforts are embodied in the Ease of Doing Business Act, which Congress passed on 2018. Thank you, Congress. Sa inyo yun. Ako ang nagpirma pala. Ako nag-execute. Pakpak rin kayo. Dapat ganun ang SONA. Sabihin mo lahat. At sabihin mo na your, not really your qualms, but your misgivings somewhere there. Transactions will be further streamlined with the rollout of the Philippine Identification System, or the PhilSy, to the Philippine Identification System Act. With this, we hope to facilitate the better access, better services and access for all Filipinos, even in the far-flung areas. I want to say something about this, but I'm taking too long, We also ensured the modification of the salary schedule for civilian government personnel through the salary standardization Law 5. A necessary measure for our civil servants to recognize their work and accomplishment, as well as a gesture of gratitude and goodwill. We have this legacy, and we hope to pass on this establishment of central business portal, single site, and for all business-related transactions, such as securing business permits, licenses, and clearances, and launched earlier this year. It shall be elevated our global standing in doing business arena and improve our country's competitiveness. Alam mo ito, yung queuing. When I was a mayor, I don't know, but maybe a legislator or a senator or a congressman, well, not really that he's higher than the others. But kung dumaan ka as a local government employee worker, just like me, for 23 years, itong queuing, matagal ko na ito. In Davao, ang passport issuances na doon sa likod ng SM. Isang gabi, nagmotor ako, nakita ko yung mga paa sa simento. So I was thinking, ano nangyari dito? So nagbaba ako, sabi ko, bakit dito kayo natutulog? Sabi nila, you know, Mayor, ang pagbukas niyan, kailangan nakapila na kami. Pag hindi, sunod, ibang araw na naman kami. So, I called for the chief of office. When I said, look, I may not be the person above you supervising, but make sure that this thing will not happen tomorrow. As in tomorrow. Tapos tinawagan ko itong sabi ko, why don't you give cards? Kung marami sila paglinya, may maglakad na martial, ito, ikaw bukas, at 4 p.m. So you have to study the time and motion of people doing work. Sabi ko, ayaw ko dito sa Davao. Because Mindanao, nasa Davao ang issuances ng passport. So ngayon, pagka-presidente ko, sabi ko, ayaw ko nang makita yan. Not during my time. Not during my time. Maghanap ka ng ibang panahon. Ayusin ninyo yan. I do not want people queuing under the heat of the sun and rain. Kaya, sabi ko, di magbigay kayo ng card. They should go to one window, magkuha kayo kung kailan sila makabalik. So divide, I should study your time and the motion of, the process of. And dito nangyari na because I insisted. Today there is no more queuing, especially in the National Office, Statistics Office. Nakita ko. Talagang sabi ko na, either you fix the thing or I will resign tomorrow because I could not bear to see those people. Hindi sa panahon ko. Kung hindi ko madala, hindi ko man kayo mapatay, hindi ko kayo mabugbog. Ako ang alis sa gobyerno. Sabi ko, ayusin ninyo yan. Hindi ko gustong makita yan. Since 2016, the Office of the President has issued 138 executive orders, 43 administrative orders, 86 memorandum circulars, 52 memorandum orders, and 1,038 proclamations. These issuances have been integral guideposts government administration and development agenda. The Office of the President has demonstrated careful stewardship of the power by initiating reforms. We upgraded and improved the system and processes to ensure that it can provide the best service to the institution of the presidency and the offices under it, ultimately to the Filipino people. To further promote transparency and accountability in government, we also issued the Order of the Freedom of Information and opens the records of transaction decision issuances of all government agencies. In relation to this, we have also Presidential Anti-Corrupt Commission that is tasked to run after corrupt and erring government officials and bring them to justice. Alam mo, I don't know if you perhaps have come to know about this. I have yung pastillas sa airport. There were 43 personnel involved. I fired them all. Talagang binaalis ko sa gobyerno. Nagbalot mga ako ng pera sa pastillas. Sabi ko magbalot ka, lagyan mo ng pera. Kaya ito ang ipakain ko sa kanila. Tinawag ko, 43 of them from the immigration. Mabutit na lang, nandyan si Justice Secretary Guevara. So, that prevented me from doing it because kung hindi siya dumating, and I never expected him to be there, bigyan ko isa't isa yung papel at ipakain ko talaga yung pera sa kanila. Gusto mo ng pera, kainin mo. That is the best way of... Then you fire them. Customs 73 plus 42, and every day you have we have dismissed about 200 government personnel. But some I did not allow the publication because may mga pamilya eh. So of late yung sabi nila na wag na lang kasi nasasaktan yung mga... So ngayon wala na. I have stopped it. But there is no saying that we cannot reimpose it again for all of these idiots. I still have about a year to go. I will reach you somehow. But corruption is endemic in government. You cannot stop corruption. Nobody can stop corruption unless you overturn government completely. If I were the next president, if you think that there's really a need for you to change everybody in the system, then you declare martial law and fire everybody and allow the new generation to come in to work for government. Kung hindi mo ganunin, walang mangyari. Nandyan, it's in the system. Kagaya ng drugs. Sino ba naman maniwala na 9 generals sa police were into trafficking of drugs? And because they are policemen, the charges simply just, disappeared. Because the prosecution, the investigation, which form part of the vital documents in court, nobody was investigating because they are also policemen. Kaya yan kahirap ang Kaya gusto mo, itong mga to, talagang the only way to do it, just call them and say, look for another job. Don't. Ganon kahirap. Now, let me pursue my talk with the foreign policy of the country. In the international arena, we have vigorously pursued an independent foreign policy centered on the promotion and protection of our core national interests. Yet, sigurado kayo sa pinakpakan ninyo? I was just laying the predicate of what I'm going to say. Yet, we continue. I will just give the cue, then you clap your hands. Yet, biro lang yan. Yet we continue to work with all nations and seek partnerships that work. Because despite differences, it is an independent world where interests and objectives intersect. Now, partners heretofore silent for equivocal reasons have expressed their principled positions that echo our own, that disputes and contested areas, the majesty of the law must prevail, and this is most welcome. To our friends in ASEAN and around the world, thank you for supporting my government, my country and people, where it truly matters. I assure you that the Philippines will remain a responsible member of the international community. And we will work with you to achieve our shared objectives. But no mistake, make no mistake, rather. Gone are the days when the Philippines decides and acts in the shadows of the great powers. We will assert what is rightfully ours and fight for what is rightfully due to the Filipino people. We do not have any SONA every day. Now is as good as any other time to just let it out from puso mo. This is why we sent back container vans of garbage, because our country is not a dump site. And the first country to do that, hindi ko alam kung bakit, ang Canada. And the container was there for 3 years because hindi alam ng port authorities kung anong gawain nila sa garbage. And I said, isauli mo. I want it done tomorrow. Those containers must be out of our country. Pag hindi kayong lahat, all of you in custody, I'll fire you. That is a good ground for dismissing people for accepting the garbage. Kaya may isa pa. Pero let you in this story. The Balingiga bell. We welcome back the bells of Balingiga after many decades because a historic wrong needed to be corrected. The deal was, I would say, I am in bad faith. Sigurado yan. I will admit it. But this is the real story. The Americans, former soldiers, war veterans, went to see me, I think it was in Aguinaldo, and some military men. And in no uncertain terms, they said that you have been invited by Trump to go to America. Have you decided to go there? I said, no. Why? Because I do not like the way that you are treating my country. Why? I said, for one, and there was the clamor now of Balingiga. You return the bells of Balingiga. So that's a war really sacred also to the soldiers. Then it is more sacred to us. in addition to the religion, the Roman Catholic Filipino Church, the church. Sabi nila, why would to make a deal? Si Hogan, he is around. He's a CIA agent. Sabi niya, isauli namin, pupunta ka, because I said earlier in my presidency, there will never be a time that I will go to America. Itong mga media mahilag mag-udyok ganon, bakit ka hindi punta? O arte mo lang yan. Sabi ko, then you watch me. Gusto ninyong malaman. Sabi ko sa Amerika, yes, I might consider going to America. So, well then. O sabi ko, work on it. Ano in just 2 months' time, they told me that the ship carrying the Balangiga bells are on their way. Could deliver it to Quezon. You remove it, you put it back there, kayo mismo. So tulong-tulong sila doon, nabalik na. Hogan said, so when are you going to go to America? So I do not have the time. But I will go there. Nung malapit na, hindi na talaga ako pumunta. Well, how about your promise? Well, I lost time to do it. I cannot do it now. Pero talaga, in my mind, and the Americans might know it, there was never in my mind a trip to America. Ngayong Balingiga, sabi ko, you massacred one barangay, baryo noon, women and children and all. Pinatay nila lahat. Because that bell, Balingiga, was used to call the people for prayers, ganon. Sa simbahan yun eh. So yung ginawa nila, every time it is used, the Americans knew that it has a great significance to the Filipinos, the Balangiga. After the massacre of one barangay, how many at the time, we would never know. But it was said, isang baryo. No barangay ngayon, baryo noon yan eh. Baryo is an American word. The barrio. They also call the small places in Mexico barrio. The Americans borrowed it from the Spaniards, barrio. So sabi ko, you really got it at the expense of the blood of Filipinos. I do not hurry me up. If I go to America, it will be in my own time. Pero actually, wala ako. I have not been to America for almost 10 years, 22 years. I have not visited America, and I do not have the intention of visiting it anymore. We called on the world to dismantle the heinous kafala system. Ito ring isa. Because the Filipino is no slave unto anyone, anywhere. And there is no room for modern-day slavery. We helped start a new global civil rights movement for the migrant worker. And we asserted the arbitration ruling on the South China Sea clearly and in no uncertain terms, bilaterally, and the ASEAN, and finally at the United Nations General Assembly. And let me talk about that. I said in the September of last year, the arbitral award is now part of the international law and beyond compromise and beyond the reach of the passing governments to dilute, to diminish, or abandon. That is the problem. We would like to just to everybody in the Middle East. I would like to tell them that not only Filipinos but all human beings, the kafala has no place there because it's a setup for slavery. Either you correct it or we will ask our workers, Filipino workers, to go home. Sabi ko, bahala na. Kung mahirap lang kami dito, okay lang. We will try our very best to make up for what they have lost, what they will lose in the process. But we will never allow them to be slaves. But we need to do more with our partners. We continue scaling our maritime domain awareness, defense capabilities, yet we will not close our doors on diplomacy and the tongue, because that is how disputes are settled and never by force. Let me alam mo, I respect the opinion. You should be aware by now of how I talk, especially on matters of crucial matters that involves the country. Ito bang arbitral ruling? I've said it I think in the later part of the speech. I said that what's your problem in the arbitral ruling? America and some Filipinos, brilliant Filipinos, I would say, keep on pushing for something which I really do not know. I have made a speech before the UN. Nakasump lang rin, nandito lang ako. Hindi ako pumunta doon. But in that speech, I laid down the bare, sabi ko, ng ating administrasyon. Ano pa ang gusto ninyo? What will I do with a document that is not bind China because they were never a part of that arbitration? There was really no arbitration at all because it was only the Philippine side was served. Well and good. But ito ngayon, that there is the arbitral ruling, you know, I do not want to insult these people pushing me for something more than what I can handle. At anong gusto nila makipagira? Do something. What do something? Do you want war against China? Well, I'll tell you, even on the coast beach of Palawan, before you can take off, the missile of China would be there in about 5 or 10 minutes. It would be a massacre if I go and fight a war now. We are not yet a competent and able enemy of the other side. So what I did was I was just being nice to them. But for some people to say that I was helped by China in being president, these idiots, really. I will never, never do that. Hindi na bali ako, hindi ma-presidente, hindi talaga gagawin yan. To be, what? Receiving money from China to buy votes? They say that they help. Maybe in some Chinese communities, the gossip going around was that support Duterte. But the whole of the Chinese community in the Philippines went for me. Why? Kasi sa Davao nung mayor ako, ni minsan hindi ako tumatanggap baski Christmas gift. Dito dito sa Maynila, presidente ako ngayon. Maraming magpadala ng baril, kung ano diyan, gobset. Sabi ko, isauli mo yan. Yung mga relo, itong aking relo, it's IWC. This is only 300,000. But the patik that has come way me, sinauli ko talaga, return it. O pag hindi, itapon mo sa Pasig sa harapan nila. Hindi ako tinulungan ng China. Nag-usap kami ng China civilly, but after election. And after election, I was a good friend of presidency. Until now, when the pandemic struck, the first country I called for help was China. President Xi, sabi ko, President, we have no vaccination program here because we do not have the vaccines. We have not been able to invent one. We might have a hard time. He said, no, it's okay, we'll send you. And he sent us, I donated about 1,500,000 of vaccines. Ganon, kaya sabi ko, ako, lalo na kami mga Bisaya, mabigat sa amin yan, for us Bisayans, yung utang na loob, mabigat talaga yan. Hindi mo mabayaran ng pero pag may utang na loob ako sa iyo, you can be sure that I will be your friend, a true friend, and die for you. Pero itong China mag-die, bakit ako magpakamatay dyan? Sundalo ako, ubusin ko. How can we fight China? Do we have the weapons? Do we have the everything? Now comes America. They say that if the attack is against the Philippines, they will defend. But they issued a statement that America does not meddle in conflicts involving the boundaries of other nations. And if America has to go to war, you would have to go to Congress to get, American Congress to get that authority to go to war. That is why many presidents, hindi na lang, it was just not an error, a mistake, a malicious mistake. No president has ever been punished for attacking nations, getting into a fight with nothing. And if they come here, well, ang problema kasi nandito na yung balingiga, sa uli na lang natin, uli. Maybe I'll just return and pag ito it's no big deal to RTVM, ring it until you die. Fulfilling my promise to our coconut farmers and the Filipino people, my administration has worked with Congress to pass the Coconut Farmers and Industry Trust Fund Act. We have returned Also, the cocoa levy funds to its true and rightful owners are coconut farmers. The fund is now worth estimated to be 75 billion, which will be utilized according to the plans and programs in the Coconut Farmers and Industry Development Plan for the direct benefit of the coconut farmers and the development of the coconut industry. In our effort to ensure that food is within reach to every Filipino family, we work for the passage of the rice tariffication law in 2019, despite pushbacks. This resulted in the stabilization of rice supply and food prices and the proceeds from the tariffs that enabled us to provide our farmers with modern machineries that increase their yield and sustaining growth agricultural production. We also fulfilled our promise to improve free irrigation. That was the first promise I made in San Miguel, Bulacan when I was campaigning. The farmers invited me to go into the farms inside San Miguel, Bulacan. And we had a sort of a meeting, and the first thing that they were complaining about was the severity of the irrigation, that they have to pay 5,000 every month, every year. So sabi ko, I will work on it. Free Irrigation Service Act of 2018 is the product that now lowers the cost of agricultural production, especially for poor farmers. We also work to ensure that households have adequate supply of clean water, potable and affordable water. It's more than a commodity. It is vital. It is a vital public good. This is why I used my political capital to fight vested interest behind disadvantageous water service contracts that burden consumers with unjustified water rights prices increases with the signing of this concession water agreements. Concessioners consumers will be protected at least until 2037. Ganito yan eh. There is this concessionaire, dalawa. Ayoko na lang mag-ano. I will not mention names. Pero this is really what happened. Ang dalawang concessionaires, one in the south and the other one is north, as the rich cartel dito sa Southeast Asia, ang kinakapture nila ang electricity pati tubig. Dito sa tubig, in this contract with water concessionaires, we made so many concessions that really, sabi ko, if you look at the contract and look at the anti-graft law, talagang it's all anti-graft. All of the sentences, even the period and question mark there. Bakit? Sila walang problema sa tax because the people, consumers, will pay the taxes for them. Sila kung malugi, sabi na, hindi nila kasalanan, and we can think of it through not of their own fault, sabi doon, bayaran natin sila malugi. We pay for the tax corporation nila. at sila ang mag-decide kung i-increase nila o i-decrease nila ang water prices. The regulators, itong mga regulators sa Pilipinas, walang magawa and they acceded to the contract. It was really, I do not know how to put it. Kaya ako nag-pardon, di ba nagmura ako? Sabi ko, biro mo kung malugi sila, babayaran pa natin. Tayo ang corporate tax nila. Tayo ang magbayad. And it's a cartel that service concessionaires are part of the cartel of Malaysia and Indonesia, and they form part of that mother corporation. Itong mga sa Pilipinas, pati Malaysia, Indonesia, they are just, kumbaga sa storya, chapter lang yan sila. It's being controlled up by the kaya sabi ko, wala ito. I told them, I told Dominguez, tell them that I am no longer honoring the contract. Meron pa doon, payment of itong tax, water treatment plant to be constructed in the Harrison Plaza site. Yun ang pinirmahan natin. So, 1997 up to the present, or up to the month that I blew my top, nagbabayad, ewan ko kung ngayon nagbabayad, there's a, sa water bills ninyo, for enhancement of quality of water. Ang ibig sabihin, water treatment. And they were collecting since 1997. So until now, how much of the Filipinos' money are with them for nothing, not even for a song? Kaya ako, if there is something, hindi naman proud, but if there is something someday that my children will say, what have you done for my country? Sabihin ko, sila. Talagang inupakan ko sila. Sabi ko, ayaw ninyo? You do not want it? Well, okay. I will just confiscate your system and call the military to operate it. I will exercise the eminent domain and expropriate all of your assets here. Kasi gagawin ko. Yun ang nangyari sa. So that sinabi ko sa military in one of our meetings immediately after that incident, I said, if I do not make it to the finish line, kindly, look kindly at the Filipino at tanungin ninyo kung ano na ang nangyari sa kanila. Yang tubig na yan. Now there is a new contract. I have not yet, I have to thoroughly digest it inside. I have to absorb it, every word of it, that the Filipino is protected. Pag nandyan na yan, then I will sign. But I will not forget. I'm telling them the crime is there already. And any Filipino who would want to go after you can. Sabi ko, I will not free you. I will not, there's no waiver in your, I will never allow that. just make a new contract, just realize every day that I can call you itong frequency ng ABS-CBN. Yan ang pinaka-ideal kasi, frequency is everywhere. But there is a spot, kung sa Gulf is a soft spot, na maganda yung... Wala akong problema sa ABS-CBN. They got my money, I'm not for that. They wanted to return it when the case blew up, but they printed all the garbage, including my daughter as a drug trafficker. Nilamon ko na lang lahat yun because I never wanted to appear vindictive. But itong they are cheating government by the billions in taxes. And they still want that frequency because yan ang pinapag-awayan. No. I will give it to a Filipino na gustong magawa ng tamang unpay because isa ABS-CBN, even their equipments were imported tax-free. Kaya talaga ako hindi magpapayag. They still owe government billions. Hindi contract dyan sa nakalagay doon 4 hectares. So ang binabayaran nila 4 hectares sa property tax. Suppose occupying 40 hectares. That complex there. Pero ginamit nila na papel yung 4 hectares. Yun lang ang binabayaran nila. Kung hindi ba naman, kaya ko sila inaway. Well, our micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, constitute 99.6% of our country's businesses and are vital to economic activity, job creation, and poverty reduction. Iparamdam natin ang ating malasakit sa maliliit na negosyante sa pamamagitan ng Pondo sa Pagbago at Pag-asenso Program since 2017. Meron na tayo. We have the program. The program has provided over 219,000 underprivileged microeconomic entrepreneurs with an alternative to the exploitive lending 5-6. Yan ang nakaano sa... Do you know what? Maybe I have to go to, if need be, I have to go to India. Yung 5-6 nila ng Turko, tinatawag ng Turko, kung maghiram ka sa kanila ng 10,000, pahiramin kanyang, hindi pera 10,000, 7,000 lang. And the others, mga refrigerator or things that you do not even need in the house. Bilhin mo sa kanila, sala set, lahat na. That is part of the money. You do not want the furnitures, the refrigerators, they won't give you the... Kaya ang Pilipino na buktot, alam mo buktot, naging hunchback na lang sa trabaho, ganun pa man. Kaya ako, sabihin ko itong mga Turko, you better come up with a fair scheme. If you want to go into business, money lending, but not at that usurpation. usury 1,000 times. Likewise, to further support development of our micro and small business, we initiated radical reforms in the tax system to ease the taxation burden and increase the net income of lower wage earners and small businesses. Thanks to Congress. Yan, hindi pa ninyo alam ha. Sabi ko lang, thanks to Congress and our revenue-generating agencies, our tax reform sustained our economic growth from the third quarter of 2016 to the fourth quarter of 2019, which made the Philippines one of the fastest-growing economies in Asia until the pandemic scourge. Yan talaga ang, well, I don't know what's the plan of God. That is something which hit us right in the heart. We see there's no way of telling when this virus would disappear from the planets of the earth. We can only pray to God to look into our direction and decide on what will happen to this planet He created. However, tax laws are not always perfect, and that is why every now and then they have to be revisited to see if they are at pace with the changing times. Let us therefore continue to monitor the relevance and the impact of our tax laws on individuals and private institutions to prevent serious damage on their financial health. Going now to the social and health issues. To unburden of people from the hefty cost of tertiary education, my administration worked with Congress to pass a landmark legislation that had remained unpassed for so many years. The Universal Access or Tertiary Education Act in 2017, which provides free education to college students and state universities. Thank you, Congress. We also passed the Universal Health Care Act in 2019. And to supplement this, I also signed into law the Malasakit Centers Act in 2019. Kasi ganito yan eh. Pag ang pobreng Pilipino na sa ospital, magpunta pa siya doon sa kung saan makahingi ng tulong. So, ang ginawa, just like in Davao, ginawa namin, yung lahat na kailangan, yung internal revenue, kung nandyan, business permit, dyan na lang sa isang lugar, medisina, kunin nila. Dyan mismo sa ospital. Hindi na sila maglakad-lakad. And to me, that is one of the most, let me find the right word, a poignant act of Congress and of the Executive Department. Legislation which was sponsored by Senator Bongo. If you feel like standing up, you can, Senator. Masikat ka pa sa guest speaker. unburden our peoples with the tedious process of going to various agencies and offices in order to avail assistance from government. I am pleased to report that we have already established 130 malasakit centers across the country. That has already helped millions of Filipinos in their hospitalization needs. By establishing malasakit centers all over the country, we have actually leveled the playing field and provide our less fortunate countrymen the medical care they deserve. We will be establishing more, God willing, if we are still around. Sa pagtatag ng malasakit center, hindi po kailangan lumapit at humingi ng tulong sa iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno. Ang gobyerno na ang lumalapit sa tao. So, let us talk about COVID. It's mentioned everywhere in the speech, but what's this goddamn virus is? I have to admit, back when I decided to answer your call and run for higher office, never did I imagine that my presidency would not only be judged by how I made good in my campaign promises in fighting illegal drugs, criminality, corruption, but how well I led our nation during the global pandemic. Hindi na ako makapronounce ng buti, baka mayroon na ako. May ambulansya ba dyan? Mukhang iba na ang... I cannot pronounce the words. I hope this is not a symptomatic. Prior to the pandemic, we recorded our lowest debt to GDP ratio since 1986, the highest revenue effort since 1997, the highest credit rating in the country's history, yung sa bangko. Because if your rating is high, it's easy to borrow at maliit lang ang interest. That is the dynamics of a rating by Fitch and Poor, mga ganon. So, and the lowest rates of unemployment and underemployment and poverty. Well, it's still there. It is beyond dispute that our economic governance fundamentals were robust when COVID-19 hit us. I am sure that much can be said about the way we took on the daunting challenge of preserving lives while sustaining our momentum towards the developmental, dito na lang ako, goals. Naturally, we prioritize saving lives. Buhay muna bago ang lahat. Ibig sabihin, inuna natin yung gastos, yung pera natin sa pandemic. Kinuha ng lahat ng mga budget. Si Dominguez yan. Yun ang ginamit ninyo sa Bayanihan 1 and 2. Doon natin kinuha yung pera. We move quickly to safeguard the well-being of every Filipino through preventive and responsive health and safety measures and broad inclusive social amelioration programs, or SAP. Thanks to the support of Congress, we launched the most extensive social protection program in our country's history with the Bayanihan passage of Bayanihan 1 and Bayanihan 2. Indeed, our national health system and the resilience which were tested to the health. Countless lessons we learned and continuously improvements put in place. Kahit anong crisis ay kaya malampasan kung tunay na may malasakit at bayanihan. I agree. At the early stages of the pandemic, our testing capacity was very limited. Recognizing the importance of conducting more tests to ensure early detection and timely isolation of confirmed COVID-19 cases, we ramped up our testing capacity. We now have more than 260 accredited laboratories nationwide, which is still capable of conducting at least 50,000 tests daily. All regions now can conduct their own COVID-19 tests. To take care of mild and asymptomatic cases, we established over 9,000 temporary treatment and monitoring facilities across the country, with a total bed capacity of more than 140,000. Together with the local government and the private sector, we quickly established mega quarantine facilities that could accommodate more cases. Modular hospitals and quarantine facilities have also been established nationwide, especially in Metro Manila. For our severe COVID cases, our tireless health workers will continue to ensure that you are provided with the best care around the clock based on the latest development global best practices. Our health experts continue to actively participate in the search for safe and effective COVID-19 medicines. With the help of Congress, kita mo sa lahat, I never said, wala kang magiging ito that I developed caused the construction of a bridge that is nowhere to be found today. Ako sa inyo talaga, with the help of Congress, we passed 13 measures that establish the new and improved the capacity of existing hospitals around the country to provide quality care and services. Our people, especially amid the ongoing pandemic-19. These include establishing new medical facilities in Mandaluyong City, Bacolod, and Davao Occidental, increasing bed capacities to existing health facilities. In Quezon City, Ilocos Sur, La Union, and Palawan, the upgrading of health facilities in that area to include Leyte. Currently, we have received over 30 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. We expect to at least receive 36 million vaccines this month, and in August, we have inoculated more than 7 million Filipinos which have received the first dose. At least 17 million. Well, I think the landscape, the health landscape of the country continues to improve as we, with the continuous approval of COVID-19 vaccines, we are ready to boost further our daily vaccination rate. And I also encourage our local government units to hasten their rollout and strengthen their inoculation program. San Juan City, for one, have vaccinated 70% of their population in a month's time. Saludo ako sa inyo at kay Mayor Zamora. We cannot continue living in the shadow of this potent enemy, especially now that science and medicine has proven that it is possible to live, if not entirely defeat this virus. The health and safety protocols we put in place have proven effective in slowing down the spread of virus. But the best solution is still vaccination. Am I to mataas na ba? Kasi kung mataas na, putulin na lang ninyo itong gumagalaw dito para sabihin ko, wala naman akong mabasa. Pag matagal na, those who want to go home, raise your right hands. Pati si Monsignor, bakang taas niya kamay niya. That is why I implore our countrymen who are now in the list of sectors to be inoculated to get vaccinated now. And to those who received their first doses, please return for your second shot. I also ask for patience for those who are next in line to receive vaccine. More and more COVID-19 vaccines are arriving each week, and you will soon have your turn. Corollary to this, it is high time that clear and precise uniform protocol and guidelines are issued in anticipation of the vaccination of more Filipinos and the steady reopening of our society. You know, pagpasensyahan niyo ako, I ask, I beg your kind indulgence. But I have to talk about something which would affect us all. It seems that this government is too far away from the people. Yung serbisyo talaga na totoo. Nung isang araw nakita ko, I don't have to know what place was that. Ang mga tao nakapila. And they say that they were there at 4 o'clock. Lumalakas yung ulan, sa payong lang sila. So nanonood ako sa report because I listen to the report every morning. Makukuha mo sa mga radio station yan eh. So I was having breakfast. I was listening to their TV. At nakita ko yung mga tao nakapila doon, malakas ang ulan. Sabi ko, doon sa breakfast table, nagmura ako. Pero dito, good boy man ako kay may mga religious dyan. Baka. I just call on the National Task Force Against COVID-19 to see to it that this happens, the protection. We have spent enormous amounts of resources to build our capacities to overcome this pandemic. We cannot afford more lockdowns, lest our economy bleeds to the point of irreversible damage. Balitan ko, bakit mo papilahin? At sabi kasi doon, libre lahat na, wala nang So nagpuntahan yung mga tao, nagpila, kasi wala nang lista-lista. Pero sabi mo, ito, alas 4 pa sila. Hindi lang ako pwedeng alam mo sa totoo lang, hindi naman ako nagyayabang. I'm just an ordinary Filipino citizen. Just like you, I get hurt when people are nearly almost brutalized. Bakit hindi ka magkuha? It's rain time. Malakas ang monsoon, southwest monsoon, dumadaan talaga sa Pilipinas. Gamitin mo utak mo. You should look for a gym. At bigyan mo lahat ng tao ng number. Hanggang dito lang po. hanggang dito lang tayo, balik kayo itong bukas, from 15 to 20, kayo na naman bukas. Bigyan mo lang card. Prepare a card where you can, the marshal will go around the queuing na, bakit mo, hindi ko maintindihan, ano this media, hindi ko maintindihan, bakit gawain mo yan sa Pilipino? Yan ang tinatanong ko. Why do you have to do it to the Filipino? You can always, maghanap ka ng, there's always a gymnasium. Mga eskwelahan, walang klase ngayon. Bakit hindi mo gamitin doon? Bakit ka maghanap ng isang tarantado? Kaya lang ako, well, it is to my chagrin, because gusto kong lumabas, itong PSG lang na ito ang, sabihin ko sa inyo, huwag kayong magpresidente. Ito, wala talagang, sabihin ko, maliit ang sweldo, wala ka. If you're not there really for the mag-corrupt ka dyan, well, it would make you a billionaire overnight. But kung magtrabaho ka lang ng ganito, ako presidente, gusto kong lumabas doon, sabihin ko, hoy, mga, bakit ganito to? Bakit ganon kayo ka-stupido? I mean, the Filipino does not deserve it. Even if they are not paying taxes. Because the theory of government is that all money belongs to the people. And the money is there. It belongs to all of us. And it should be used for public good. But what is the use of public good if you are not good and stupid? So, ganun ang mangyayari sa Pilipino. I'm just letting off my... Kasi kung hindi lang talaga bawal, itong PSG, hindi ako pinapalabas. Magsabi ko, magpunta ako na, sir, hindi pwede yan, hindi pwede. Kulong talaga ako. Magpresidente ka, totoo lang, you are a prisoner. You are brought here, kunyari ka pa, di chopper ka, di gwardya, patos uwi ka doon sa bahay mo. Tapos hindi ka na makalabas. Priso ka talaga. Tawagin mo ang security, yung gusto kong pumunta, sir, pasensya na. Tapos paggalitan mo, sabihin mo, sir, ang authority namin does not come from you. It comes from a law. So, kami ang masunod. Talagang, sige ka, perma, bunch of papers, if you read it hanggang umaga, trabaho ka, sweldo mo, ganun lang. Just give me 219,000. Tapos ganun ang trabaho. Mag-isa ko. Butit ngayon, kaya nandito yung asawa ko at dito yung anak ko. Nabubuhay yung loob ko, mag-uwi ako sa bahay ngayon. Looking forward. Today is my last State of the Nation address. But this is by no means my swan song. I shall never cease to implore Congress to pass vital and critical legislation as well as to push the entire government to ensure nothing less than the full recovery and revitalization of our country. But to do this, it is necessary for us to first overcome the crippling fear, anxiety, and uncertainty that was caused by the threat of the COVID-19 virus. Well, I really do not know what to do. I have to listen to the task force. This is a group of people volunteering to be a collective advisor or that would give you the advice collectively, we put it that way, na sila ang magsabi. And we're just waiting for the word. I am referring to COVID-D, Delta. It is rampaging now in Indonesia, Thailand, India, and many parts of Asia. And ang sabi doon sa the Western medicine says that it is far more aggressive and far more dangerous, and it can cause death easily than the COVID-19 original. So this is as good as any other time to say it. If says that it is really dangerous, you have to go back to lockdown. If there are many people in other parts of the world killing as many than Delta, if ever it will spread, we have it here now. I hope it will not go any further. But if something wrong happens, I'll have to be strict. And I have now my word that there will be, just like what happened in the early days. Kung ganun ang COVID-D, saan tayo pupunta? And if it requires a new vaccine, we do not have it yet. I don't know what, maybe we'll just have to pray for salvation. Sabihin natin, Diyos, we have done everything, but this time we are really put hard on these things that happen. Rest assured, we will exert every effort to ensure the lost livelihood of our affected countrymen. I have recently signed an executive order creating a task force that will shepherd the country's national employment recovery strategy. The task force recently partnered with the Employers Federation of the Philippines to implement the reforms Rebound and Recover program that aims to vaccinate qualified workers to fill in more than 1 million jobs. These jobs will be created by business association in the fields of construction, information, technology, POP, and electronic to our business association. Thank you for joining in our effort to bring back lost income opportunities for our workforce. Another important component of our employment recovery strategy is the retooling of our workers to prepare them to better job opportunities. Since the start of the community quarantine, over 1.5 million availed of the TESDA's free online training program. I am directing the National Employment Recovery Strategy Task Force, particularly TESDA, to ensure the upskilling of our workers and increase their employability. I expect the task force to work double time, not only to recoup job losses, but more importantly, to rehabilitate the economy and help our hardest hit sectors. through COVID-19 assistance to start enterprises or CARES program, we released 988 million pesos worth of loans to over 14,000 enterprises. Bayanihan 1 and Bayanihan 2 released 2.9 billion pesos worth of loans to over 12,000 enterprises, including our displaced OFW enterprises in the tourism sector to help them start or sustain their business amid the pandemic. Along this line, I would like to renew my call to Congress to immediately pass the amendments of priority legislative measures such as the Foreign Investments Act, the Public Service Act, and the Retail and Trade Liberalization Act. Your applause went well ahead of its realization. You have to work on this, guys, and well, I'm sure that we can have a respite of this contagion in your own little way. Finally, I would like to reiterate my call for Congress again to pass legislation to establish a single agency that shall focus on and respond quickly to the needs and concerns of our OFWs. I pray that our next leaders and our future generations will not squander our natural resources and fight for integrity of our environment in a manner fiercer and more effective than my administration had ever done. The pandemic has taken so much from us as a nation, but like other adversities that tested us time and again, it can never take our courage and resilience and the spirit of Bayanihan 1, or rather Bayanihan, and the value of the malasakit are now indelible in us Filipinos. We shall use these gifts to forge ahead towards a better normal. As we come to a point where the risk of COVID-19 transmission can, to a certain extent, be managed, and I'm hopeful that we shall be united in forging ahead towards bringing the country back to its robust growth path. Let me end by adding these particular statements. We are on learning, education, and learning. Despite our inability to conduct face-to-face classes during this pandemic, we remain determined to deliver quality and accessible education to all. Creation of the basic educational learning plan. Community plan enabled uninterrupted learning to students in the basic sector while ensuring their teachers' health and safety and well-being. While the pandemic has demonstrated readiness, resourcefulness, and capability of government to serve the Filipino people through the use of ICT and digital services, it has also shown its inherent deficiencies and weaknesses. As such, that I ask Congress to pass an e-governance act that will set up transition of government processes to digital age. I'd like to add something on the protection of our overseas Filipinos. I also ask Congress to pass a law creating the Department of Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipinos. Kailangan po ito because they are suffering they suffered not only yesterday, but they are still suffering now with so many inadequacies in both our government response and including the monetary assistance. To ensure that there is a department that is solely focused on addressing the needs and taking care of the welfare of our countrymen abroad. Before I end, let me also touch on the environmental protection. It has also been 13 years since the Supreme Court through Mandamos ordered the rehabilitation of Manila Bay. Unfortunately, no immediate substantial action to comply with the Supreme Court's order was undertaken until 2019, when this administration started its long overdue rehabilitation. As of May 2019, all illegally operating open dump sites surrounding Manila Bay has been shut down, while 151 out of 187 LGUs surrounding the bay have now access to sanitary landfill. Establishments have been forced to comply with environmental laws and ordinances, while those who did not have been closed. As a result, pollutants have been slightly reduced, coliform levels also reduced to its barest maximum, are now in its longest levels in years, if not decades. I urge the DENR to sustain the efforts to continue working with our LGUs to restore Manila Bay to its former glory. You know, just one little thing before we end. Yung pag-ano sa Manila Bay, where there is the corner where all of the garbage by current, by action of the current, nandito marami sa likod ng Luneta. Ginawa natin yan at nilagay tayo itong yung puting basto na which is scattered into small pieces. Nawawala minsan yan because of the waves. So every now and then, we still have to replenish because we cannot change the nature of our shores. That is how it is. It is not a permanent fixture there, doliform. It is there from the mountains, and we break it down and bring it to the sea. But that would occupy that place, irrespective of there is a high tide or low tide. Nakakatulong yan. At nawawala yan. And the only way to do it is to replenish it until we can think of a good alternative of how we can process the whole thing back to its normalcy. If there was really normalcy at that time or at any other time in the past. On the resilience, again, dinagdag ko na lang ito. So time is good, and at any other time again to ask you, in line with this, we hope to pursue the creation of public entities dedicated to managing emerging and re-emerging diseases. I thus fervently ask Congress to enact a law creating the Center for Disease Prevention and Control and the Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines. We must have them. Baski gaano natin kahirap, however poor we are, I think that the Filipinos, given the proper support and the things, the equipment that they have to use. We can, I am sure that the Filipino brain can also process or make vaccines in the future. Tapos na po yan, ma'am. I ask Congress to pass the Disaster Resilience Act that will create the Department of Disaster Resilience. Let us also, pagkatapos ito, ma'am, ikaw yung unang tao na mag-congratulate sa akin, ha? Kaya ako nagkautal-utal dito dahil sa iyo. Let us also pass the law implementing the Fire Protection Modernization Program to bolster the readiness of our firefighters and ensure their ability to respond to fires and disasters. Related to this, importante ang trabaho ng bombero, maniwala kayo. They must also be there during a disaster happening. Let us also push for the mandatory establishment of education centers in every city, province, and municipality throughout the country, which shall provide the basic needs and assistance to all evacuees during times of emergency. Now, there is now the conclusion. Yes, ay, salamat. Pochang Duterte to. The lights go out for this administration 11 months from now. The work that we started and expected to finish within constitutional time frame of 6 years has been told. Much was hoped for, but we need not despair. Desperation is a feeling alien to the resilient Filipino. A peaceful and prosperous Philippines is no longer a distant dream, but one that is within our grasp. If our future Filipinos would also do it. If they would continue and would seize the opportunity to work together. Malaki ang papasalamat ng mga kababayan natin, lalo na silang sinasabi na mas panatag ang loob nila ngayon. Hindi na nababahala ang mga magulang na lumalabas ang mga anak nila naglalakad sa gabi. I will not elaborate on anything. You can draw your conclusion. Alam mo, when the Filipino, a father, a mother, or a child, naglalakad sa gabi, at siya ay, gaya ng iba, even in America, you go into the inner cities of LA and New York, Washington, D.C. There's a corner there, they say, do not go there because you'll not come out alive. Ganon, kung hindi maglakad na sila, puro takot na lang ang nasa loob nila, ma-hold up sa jeep, tapos pati yung taga-ombudsman na buntis, patay pa, pati yung bata sa loob ng tiyan. But just to get the money to buy shabu. Because when the monkey is riding on your back, yung katawan mo hindi mo na maano. That is why you need to higop, sip. Kailangan mo maghigop at kailangan mong pumatay pag wala kang pera. Hindi naman talagang papatay. Maybe not. The mind is not ready for that. But in the struggle, you put up a struggle, if you are the owner of the money, talagang papatayin ka kung hindi mo ibigay. Yan ang ayaw ko. Kaya nung na-mayor ako sa Davao, ganito, mga umalis kayo sa daan. Yung daan, yung public transportation is for public good. Huwag mo silang takutin na magkanto pag-uwi, nandyan nagiinom man sa... Yan ang hilig ng Pilipino. Mag-inuman. Hindi mo malaman ang mga nag-uwi na babae, they have to take another route that would be longer because nandyan mga standby. So the streets are unsafe. Ino-hold up, pinapatay. Sabi ko doon sa Davao na lang, wag na lang ako dito sa Maynila. Hindi naman talaga ako nakikialam dito. Pero alam nila, alam ng pulis kung ano ang gusto ko. Magprangkahan tayo. Sabi ko sa pulis, isauli mo yan. The roads, the highways are for law-abiding citizens of this country. Yung mga kriminal, yung mga the dregs of society, wag ninyong gamitin yung mga daan, hindi para sa inyo yan. And I will see to it that you are not there. Be sure that when I pass by, I do not see you. Because if I see you, I will dance with you. Isauli ko. Kaya ngayon, medyo hindi naman talaga But yung mga sales girl, mga shopping center, panatag na ang loob nila. At least chances of being mugged, murdered, and raped. Yan ang ayaw ko. Pag malayo, nakahigop na, kunin yung pera, hilain doon sa medyo maliit na mga grassy portion and rape. At papatayin. Yan ang hindi ko matanggap. Just like yung Pilipino sa Wikwing, I may be just a little bit crazier than the others. But that is what I am. Ayaw ko yung, lalo na magsyabo ka, tapos magpasyal ka kung ano, wala kang makuhang pera, aakyat ka ng bahay. Just like that bank teller. It was raining so hard, just like the rains that we had experienced. It was pouring almost cuts and nails. Ang lakas talaga ng bagsak ng ulan. She went home to knock the door and pump the door loud. But ang parents nilang matanda niyang parents, hindi nakarinig. So anong ginawa nitong mga sa construction workers? Because diyan nga ako galit sa dugay. Nabibili nila mura. So it's 200, 300. Susuyupin nila. At pag nakasuyop ng droga yan, maghanap ng alkohol yan. Sigurado yan. Pag tama ng alkohol, pati yung ng droga, it shrinks the brain. Yung babae, she was just picked up and brought to the construction site near the house. Tapos ni-rape doon, pinatay, sinunog pa. Oh, yan ang hindi ko talaga maintindihan. I cannot recall yung bata na 3-year-old rapin mo. Ang problema nito, ang nakikita nila, ang patay ng mga kriminal. Well, how about the victims on the other side? Bakit hindi ninyo tignan and see what these criminals have done? to our children, to our wives and daughters. May listahan kayo. Ang listahan ninyo doon sa namatay, hindi ba kayo maligaya niya, wala ng kriminal, pero pag tinre mo dito, ilan ang patay na inosente, pati pulis ko at sundalo na mamatay dyan. Baka akala ninyo kriminal lang. So that is my lamentations, and I just want you to hear. In my 5 years in office, we made real change in governance to the reforms we pursued. However, for this governance must be sustained and broadened. We need to make, I'm just getting my ear. Naghihingal ako. Baka dito ako mamatay pagka-presidente. Iba na ang pitik ng ano ko ngayon. Ng kasing-kasing ko. Kasing-kasing is puso. To make every public servant responsive to the needs of the people and enjoin every Filipino to assert the right to demand malasakit from their leaders until everyone lives with dignity, well-fed, educated, healthy, secure, disciplined, and empowered to contribute to the national development. I will not forever be president. But ang kulang sa Pilipino is assertiveness. Pag mayroon kayong transaction at hingian kayo, ang sabi ko sa inyo, ito ang payo ko. Murahin mo, sabihin mo, nagtatrabaho kayo at kami dito. We are following papers and you are sitting on your ass on it. Kaya dito sabi ko, makinig kayo lahat ng Pilipino, total last zone ako ito. Pag may mag-follow up kayo, permit, clearance, at maghingi ng pera, murahin ninyo. Sabihin ninyo, yan, sabi ni Duterte, sampaling ko kayo kasi ako nagbabayad ng buwis. Bakit ginaganito ninyo? Anto di mga Pilipino, hindi naman lahat. Tayong magtatrabaho sa gobyerno. You know, I mean, it takes you 1 month to process a paper. Takes you, patos pabalik-balik yung tao. Pag ang tao bumabalik, 2, 1, 3, then there is corruption there. Murahin mo at kung maari, pahiramin kita ng pangkulam para kulamin mo. Ganun talaga. I'm just warning everybody. There's still 1 year to go. In about 3 days, lagyan mo ng papel, bumalik ka dito at this hour on Thursday. At pag pakita mo yung papel, hanapin yung papel ibigay. Yan ang gamitin ninyo. For all the local governments also. In my cabinet, it's 30 days. Walang extension. All. Sabi ko, reduce the signing authority from 6, 7 to only 1 or 2. Hindi naman kailangan hindi kailangan nagpirma lahat ng empleyado dyan. 1 or 2, yung iba mag-process lang. But if you cannot process it also in so many days, in Davao, if it is a clearance which is long overdue, hindi mo na pwedeng ibigay doon sa tao. Ibigay mo sa akin at tanungin kita mo, bakit inabot ka ng ganitong? There's no other conclusion. Corruption. Kagaya, what is true in Davao is true for the entire Philippines. Mabutit na rin niya nakapagsalita ako ng freely with you. Total, last ko naman itong SONA. Mabuti ang malaman ng tao na ganon ang ginagawa nila. It's not there. Hindi man nila nalagay ang mga ganon na wala mang mura dyan. Be careful. We need to fight and subdue narrow vested interests and ensure that our gains will benefit to the greater number of Filipinos, especially those who have the least in life. We have laid down the groundwork and are continuing to push for landmark reforms and key accomplishments to the last day of my term. I have full confidence that the Filipino spirit, pati ako nagmamadali na. Naiihi na kanina pa eh. It's a natural human biology, so what's the big deal? Bakit kayo magpakpak kung napaihi na ako? Sa bagay, alam ko rin, nahiya kayo magtindig. Puno ang pila nito pagdating sa CR maya. I have full confidence that the Filipino spirit will persevere and triumph together. And together, let us rise as a nation. Thank you.
Mabilis na naman tayo doon. Adjourn. Bakit ba? Bakit ba? Congratulations.
On the part of the Senate, the joint session is hereby adjourned.
On the part of the House of Representatives, the joint session is hereby adjourned.